Hello guys, welcome back to another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation reads like this: Hello brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I want to confess that I bewitched my own stepson, and now I am regretting, because at that time my own mother told me that if I was going to bewitch my stepson, this was going to give me full control over my own husband. And once I had gotten full control of my husband, I was going to force him so that on his will he can make my own son to inherit his wealth and leaving his own biological son by the side. By the way, by the time that I got married to my current husband, I was already pregnant at that time, and the man who had impregnated me, he was married. And when I told him that I had fallen pregnant for him, he then told me to have an abortion, and I could not do that. And when I told my mom that the man that I was dating, I did not know that he was a married man. Now that I had fallen pregnant for him, he wanted me to have an abortion. That is when my mom told me that she was going to have a discussion with one of her friends. She was a pastor's wife. She was a pastor in the church where my mom was attending, but I was staying in another city, so I was not attending the same church as that church that my own mother was attending. But after a couple of days, that is when I received a phone call from my mom. Then she told me that I had to pray very hard because grace was going to locate me. Maybe the windows of heaven were finally going to open, and God was going to pour his blessings upon my life. My mom told me that I had to fast and I had to pray, and I had to make sure that I was not going to have an abortion. I did not even understand what my mom was trying to tell me. But after everything that happened, I now know that when my mom went to speak with her friend, that pastor's wife, that is when she was told that there was another plan, because in the church where she was attending, there was this other man who had recently lost his own wife in a car accident. So he was very desperate and lonely. So that pastor's wife and my mom, that is when they made a deal, and they were going to offer me as a new wife to that man. So my mom told me that I had to travel back into that city where my mom was staying so that I can stay with her for about 3 weeks. I did so. I traveled back to the city where my mom was working. Then we went to church together. When we were at church, that is when my mom's friend called me. And the time that she called me, she was standing with my current husband, and she introduced me to my current husband. And as we were standing and as we were talking, that is when I realized that the man had already fallen in love with me. Brother Nashi, I don't want to lie. I am really a beautiful woman. And after he had proposed love to me, that is when my mom told me that I had to do my things quickly, and I had to make sure that I have sexual intercourse with my current husband. So he proposed love to me like today. Then the following day, I went to his office, and when I was in his office, I tried by all means to seduce him, and he could not resist me. He then had intercourse with me, and I made sure that by the time that we were going to have intercourse, he was not going to use any protection on me, because I wanted to later claim that he was responsible for the child that I was carrying. This was really a good plan, because when month end came, I was sleeping at his house. After he had finished having intercourse with me, I started crying. I was pretending as if I was crying, Brother Nashi, but all of this was just a show. I wanted to convince him. He then asked me why I was crying. I then told him that I had missed my periods, and I was afraid that I had fallen pregnant for him, and I didn't want to fall pregnant for a man that I really didn't even trust enough if he loved me enough, because we had only been dating for about 1 month and a half. And when I told him that I had not seen my periods, I saw that he started smiling. Indeed, he was really happy that he had impregnated me. Quickly, he rushed out of the house. Then he went to the pharmacy to buy a pregnant test kit. And when he came back, he saw that indeed I was pregnant. When he found out that I was pregnant, he was really excited and happy. He called his uncle and some of his relatives so that he can send them to my people. That is how I got married to my husband. By the time that I got married to my husband, his son, my stepson, he was about 10 years old. And in this marriage, I also have one child. But my husband does not even suspect that when I got married to him, I was already pregnant for another man. The only reason why I had to pretend as if the child that I was carrying, it was his child. It was because the man who had impregnated me had lied to me that he is not married. After I had fallen pregnant for him, that is when he told me that I had to do an abortion. I gave birth to my son in the 8th month of my pregnancy, and this was a full-term baby, because by the time that I started having intercourse with my husband, I was already 1 month pregnant. But he never even bothered to calculate the dates. Maybe he doesn't know how to calculate the dates. He even gave my son his late father's name. He really loves my son. But as my boy was growing up, I then noticed that he was not as intelligent as my stepson. That is when I went to this other traditional healer and I was given a charm. The charm that was given to me, Brother Nashi, it was in a form of taking away the intelligence of my stepson. By the time that my stepson turned 15, he then became a drunkard and he became a drug addict. I don't know how many times he have gone to drug rehabilitation centers, but he cannot be cured because this is a spiritual thing. The way that he gets addicted to all of these addictive substances, it is because there is a spirit that is behind. And whenever he tries to get sober, there are rituals that I was told to perform so that he can go back to his drug abuse ways. And the rituals that were given to me by that traditional healer, whenever I feel like my stepson is getting sober, I have to go and kneel down in my bedroom in the center of the room. And whilst I'll be kneeling down, I'll be holding a traditional sweeping broom. On the other hand, I'll be holding a small bucket of water. What I do is that I dip that traditional African sweeping broom into that bucket of water. Then I'll start to sprinkle all of that water in my bedroom. After I had finished doing that, I will then go into my stepson's spare bedroom. Then I will kneel again in the center of his bedroom. Then I'll start to sprinkle all of that water in his room, and I'll be placing a lot of curses on his life, and I'll be cursing him so that he can have bad luck and never to find any favor in the eyes of his father, my husband. So when I got married to my husband, I then stopped going to church. I am someone who never liked church, but because of the pressure, I ended up going to church. Then one day, I decided to give my life to Christ. But after I had given my life to Christ, that is when the pastor asked me if there was anything that I wanted to tell him, if I wanted to confess. But Brother Nashi, I cannot confess. If I confess, Brother Nashi, am I not going to get arrested? So I lied to the pastor that I do not have any confession. My heart is very clean. But at the back of my mind, I know that I still perform a lot of these rituals, performing all of these bad luck spells on my stepson, because I don't want my husband to bless my stepson. I just want to leave him a life full of bad luck. But now whenever I try to read the Bible, I can't even complete a single chapter. I keep on seeing myself in the mirror, performing all of those evil rituals. Dear brother, all that I am looking for is counseling, because I cannot approach anyone that knows me. Because this secret, Brother Nashi, it was between me, my mother, and that pastor's wife. And that pastor's wife, she died many years ago. So this secret, it is now between me and my own mother. I am afraid that If I go around looking for ideas and counseling, maybe my husband is going to hear all of these evil deeds that I have done against his own son. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation. Strange things do happen in this world. But please let us meet again in the following episode.